Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode 3 of Braindrizzle. I'm Q Dragon, the writer and editor of Brainstorm Science News, and with me, as always, is Jack.
What's crack-a-lackin'?
Not too much, so this week we got no guest, but we got lots of interesting science news. And the first bit of news is that the Philippines has officially announced that they are going to start growing the GM crop, golden rice.
Golden rice. What's special about it? Is it actually golden, or is that...
It's engineered to produce beta-carotene, which allows people who ingest it to get vitamin A.
That's pretty bitchin'.
It was actually developed first in 1999, but now it's finally getting approval.
About time. Gosh. Carrots are expensive, and if I could have rice that is made out of carrots to put with my curry, then I wouldn't have to go to the store as often, because we always have onions.
Yeah, and it's just really awesome because studies show that like 100 grams of cooked golden rice is like 60% of a child's daily intake of vitamin A. And vitamin A deficiency causes blindness and death in a lot of the developing world.
Yeah, vitamin A, that's one of those ones that is so crucial to development. I mean, if you even go through a small period of deficiency in infancy while stuff is developing, your eyes end up not quite developing right. People really do underestimate the effect that malnutrition has on the developing body. Possibly because here in the West, people don't get to see what that looks like very often, but it can be devastating. If you've ever seen somebody with rickets, or if you've ever seen somebody who's not growing like the rest of the kids, whose body is stunted because either due to abuse, addiction, or just straight up poverty at home, the physical effects are devastating. The effects on the social development, malnutrition affects all aspects of a child's life. It's not just they feel lethargic. It's not just that their skin gets a little sallow. No, I mean, it is absolutely devastating. And it's really good that they have this. And this is what makes me so angry about the people who are against GMOs. It's crops that are fortified before they're even harvested. Like, you don't have to add stuff to them. You can pull them right out of the ground, which these people need this nutrition. Bottom line.
Exactly, and Philippines has confirmed they're going to start growing it. Indonesia, Bangladesh, and India are considering it, among other countries. And in the article that talks about it, there is an interesting quote from a guy called Mark Linus, and apparently he is one of the original anti-GMO proponents, people against GM crops, and he is quoted as saying, "You cannot call yourself a humanitarian and be opposed to GM crops today." He has officially apologized for his opposition to golden rice.
At one point, back when there were still a lot of questions of, hey, you go around tinkering with the genes directly in these plants, what could happen? Could something unpredictable happen? What if people start eating it and then further down the line there turns out to be a problem? Back when the effects of genetic engineering and the science of direct genetic engineering, not breeding, which is still genetic engineering when you breed crops for a certain outcome, it's just over the period of generations, but direct genetic engineering where you actually directly change the DNA, back when studying that was in its infancy, and back when policymakers were looking at this science that they really didn't know much about that was new to them, the information about what exactly this was just hadn't gotten around to everyone. That's something that takes time for new information to filter through society. It's a fact. It's happening faster now that we have instant communication. Way faster. The information revolution has affected that in a very positive way. But, at first it was kind of understandable that people would be cautious because it still takes time for information to get one place to another. I mean, heck, FedExing somebody a flash drive is faster than trying to transfer it online if it's a big enough bit of information.
Yeah.
For goodness sake.
That's understandable, but today, again, the quote says it all, and I find it really encouraging from apparently a guy who was like one of the first and main anti-GMO proponents.
Yeah, it really, really is.
Whenever you bring up GM crops, people bring up Monsanto's and corporations in general, but at least for golden rice, and I'm sure a lot of other biofortification efforts, the companies have waived any licenses to get the project off the ground.
Yeah, the whole Monsanto thing about patenting certain crops, that is a whole different issue. That is a legal issue and a patent issue because this is the first time in human history that it has been possible to be like, I am only allowed to exclusively grow this particular, at least that I know of. I mean, unless there was like some lord back in like the 1000s who said, I have bred this carrot and I shall guard this breed with my life. It only grows here in this patch.
I guess technically you could have patented a species. I'm like, because before, most wild carrots are multicolored, and they bred orange carrots specially. So I guess someone could have said, these are my special carrots, or something.
Nobody touched them in the fridge. They're mine.
I'm really excited about the golden rice thing.
Yeah, definitely, me too.
I want to try it, too.
Yeah, me too. I wonder if it'll taste different. I wonder if it'll taste kind of sweeter. That'd be nice.
I don't think so. The only addition is beta-carotene, which is just a pigment that can be turned into vitamin A.
Okay, yeah, fine.
I want to get my hands on some seeds and try and grow it.
That would be sweet. We're not growing corn in the backyard. What? We're growing rice. What? Okay.
Golden rice.
Golden rice.
With vitamin A being so important, it's like, why stop there? I wonder what else could be relatively simply added to rice or wheat or barley or these other sort of staple items.
Man, those people in the 50s who thought that people in this era would be eating all of their food in pill form had no clue what this world was in for.
Like, again, it brings me back to my idea of wanting to grow yeast. I wonder if you make yeast with beta-carotene in it.
I guess you could.
I wonder how nutritious algae is.
You know, that's a good question. I've honestly never really thought about it. I know that there's probably plenty of people who live off of it.
Kelp and seaweed and stuff is perfectly edible, so I wonder if you could biofortify algae to produce extra starch, some extra vitamins, beta-carotene, whatever, and then hydroponically grow massive algae that's like nutritious.
I'm thinking about that. I'm almost sure that algae has to be a staple in some people's diet somewhere in the world. But for the life of me, I can't think of any culture that eats algae. It could be that no one eats algae. Wow.
It depends on what you define as algae, because some people define kelp, and that's just nori and seaweed.
Yeah, seaweed is a type of algae, isn't it? Okay, yeah, man. Plenty of people eat algae. I guess it's like spinach. I've had it on pizza before.
I don't know how nutritious it is. The problem is, it's probably really salty if it's a saltwater algae.
It tasted fine around my sushi rolls, but then again, I guess it being salty would have been good in that aspect. It was great on pizza, but pizza's supposed to be salty. I guess don't add salt if you're adding algae.
Making it a staple vegetable replacement is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that might be kind of weird. Kelp chips.
I guess you could probably do something similar with, like, freshwater algae.
Yeah, maybe. And not only that, but there might be a way that to dry the algae and extract a lot of the salt out of it through the drying process. Just dry it and rinse off the brine.
Because being able to grow a food in saltwater would probably be really advantageous.
Oh, yes, it would be. Or heck, just sending submarines to cut down kelp forests so that we can eat them. That's what this world needs right now. This world needs a new ecological problem. I mean, I'm sick of the ones we have. We need a new one. That's what's wrong with all the GMO people. It's just like they're trying to make up a new problem. They're getting scared of GMOs because at least that's a new one.
I wonder how much research has been done. Can we eat saltwater plants? If we didn't have to waste fresh water watering crops, that would be incredible.
That would be incredible. Somebody needs to get on that. Underwater farming, man. Even if it's not for human consumption. Have man-made estuaries where we raise fish to be eaten and cut down on the overfishing for raising the fish if it's farm-raised. Find a way to grow algae so that we have more of a self-sustaining. Feed the fish with genetically enhanced farmed algae.
That reminds me of a cool product I saw on the D News YouTube channel. They did like a spotlight. This company grew a mushroom growing kit in a box, and then they're about to release a hydroponics kit where it's basically a betta fish in a tank and then like 3 basil plants above it. And so supposedly the waste from the fish would supply the minerals that the plant needed. I don't know how accurate that is, but basically the idea is you would just feed the fish and then the plants would have enough water and nutrients to survive. I always wondered, could you set up a rig where like you grow algae and then you process the algae into the food for the yeast?
Wasn't this the plot of Soylent Green?
No. Like just grow massive algae, decompose it into pure sugar, and then give that to the yeast that you then eat directly. That would be crazy.
As long as it's not people. Or at least as long as it's not people I like.
So it brings me to a related topic. If human tissue growing became really easy, would people start eating that?
They mentioned that in Transmetropolitan, which I keep trying to get you to read.
I'm busy.
You need to read it, man. Just read like an issue a day. That's like reading a chapter a day. You'll get through it in no time. You'll love it. Everybody, audience, read Transmetropolitan by Warren Ellis. Yes, it's the one with Spider Jerusalem and the crazy reporter. A lot of you probably know who Spider Jerusalem is, but has never read the comic book. You need to read the comic book. That shit, for real, should be required reading in, like, college classrooms, in college English classes. It is that good. It is awesome. It's an awesome vision of the future. It's so great. One of the perks of working on Brainstorm, especially back when I was the one finding all the articles, anything that reminded me of Transmetropolitan got bumped to the top. I even bent the rules about it needing to be underreported just to try to get it in the show, because I tell you what, as horrible as the future depicted in this comic book is, it is wonderful and vivid at the same time, and it is a future I want to live in, and a future that part of me thinks is plausible despite the fanciful aspects and details in the comic.
But there was eating of cultured human tissue?
Bodies that were grown in vats with no brains, just brain stems.
Huh.
Basically, they were used for organ farming, and what was not used was sold for food.
Interesting.
Specifically to a fast food chain. They called it long pork.
Was it like a situation where people didn't know, or did they know?
They knew, and nobody cared, because these humans were just grown in a vat. The taboo against eating humans was just totally removed in this future culture. It's just one of those things where places that serve lamb's brains exist, and in this future, places that serve human meat exist.
I wonder how long that would take for it to become not really weird.
Fuck. That is a very good question.
People are already iffy about cultured regular beef or pork.
Yeah, I know, which is bizarre. That's one of the things explored in Transmetropolitan is shifting cultural taboos. And that's one of the ways that it gets explored is actually through the mentioning, it's just part of the world. It's not even a central plot point. This is just something that's in there. There's all kinds of stuff that is endangered now that's no longer endangered in the future. So you can eat baby seal eyes. You can just get a bucket of baby seal eyes and eat them. Like, all kinds of endangered species are used for food because they're not endangered anymore. You gotta read it. I'm telling you gotta read it.
I wonder, could you save a panda if you got like a bunch of rich people, made panda delicious so that they would invest money in panda breeding?
You know? Come to think of it, C.S. Lewis in Prince Caspian did mention that bear meat is actually pretty good if it's the kind of bear that eats mostly green things and berries. Because, you know, bears are omnivores. Pandas only eat bamboo, so that meat might actually be pretty tasty.
Yeah, you just need to get a table of the richest people in the world, and then, like, the best chefs, and then sacrifice 1 or 2 pandas.
Oh, God. That might work if it weren't for the media backlash.
I know, but could you imagine the sweet irony that the only way to save pandas is to turn them into a delicacy?
God, that reminds me, back at the turn of last century, or even before then, there was actually this trend amongst the well-to-do. Gentlemen would join these sporting clubs where the goal was to try to kill and eat as many different species of animal as possible. Darwin was somebody who was into this. He actually ended up discovering a species thought extinct because he was about to chow down. And then he realized, wait, this isn't such and such. It's closely related cousin such and such and such. Oh my God, I need to stop eating right now, and crap, it's cooked.
That would be an awkward moment.
Yeah, awkward moments in history is something that really happened. It was some kind of bird. I think it was a type of dodo or something. I am not 100%. We're gonna have to look it up, maybe leave a link down there being like, then this is what he almost ate.
Speaking of tissue culturing, see what I did there with that beautiful segue?
Indeed, I saw. Did the audience see? Oh no, they saw. They loved it. They loved it.
They heard.
Close enough. Anyway, continue.
The Vienna University of Technology has made a brand new way of creating a cellular scaffold. We talk about this a lot on Brainstorm, a material that cells can grow in. It's more of a 3D solid structure. Basically, they could grow the cells in a liquid medium, and then there's a special polymer in the solution that when two lasers meet, the polymer turns solid.
Where are you going with this?
The cells will be sitting in solution, and the lasers can make a structure around the cells.
Oh, gotcha. What would we use that for?
Cellular scaffolding. So you can make very intricate cellular scaffolding in real time in the solution.
Basically as a way to create molds to shape the cells.
The polymer only reacts when it's the focal point of two lasers interacting.
I think I see it. I'm not a sculptor, so it took me a second. But, I mean, here's the thing. How would the cells stay in that shape and not just float back to their weird original shape once everything became liquid again?
No, it stays solid.
Oh, it stays solid.
When the two lasers meet at a point, it catalyzes the polymers in solution to become solid.
I thought it was one of those non-Newtonian liquids where you apply heat or any kind of vibration, it just goes solid for a second, then the minute the condition goes back to its previous state, the liquid goes back to its previous state. Okay.
Oh yeah, and it makes a solid nanostructure you can adjust in real time around the cells.
Got it. Okay, well that's pretty neat.
And there's been some research that the shape or the structure of the environment that cells are in can really influence how they behave.
That's interesting. Ooh, you could shoot dye into these cells, and you could actually use this to build living tattoos that then get implanted onto the skin. We wouldn't have to do etching, branding, or conventional tattooing. There could be a new option for designer body modification and body decoration.
That seems like it'd be really complicated.
Also, it would probably be a type of living temporary tattoo, because the thing with tattoos is what it does is create scar tissue and then inject the ink into the scar tissue, so you see the ink on the scar. And this, if it were just colored cells, once those sloughed off, no more tattoo. The living temporary tattoos.
Well, if you want a living permanent tattoo, I guess you could DNA gun some pigment genes into your cells.
Now we're cooking with gas.
That's how they modify a lot of plants. They literally shoot DNA-coated pellets into seeds or plant cells.
Alright, sweet.
So I guess you could just DNA gun different patterns of pigment genes into your skin.
Since it's all kinds of fancy and would have to be done by some super smart technician, perhaps we can get past all of the ludicrous misspellings that people end up tattooed on themselves that end up on the internet. If we put it back to basically it's a machine that etches that shit on you and you just design it on a computer screen, then we're back to having people permanently etched with fuck the system.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how well that would actually work in reality. Getting the skin cells to actually express that gene.
Yeah, and also the fact that, if you're a dick to the technician who is putting the tattoo on you, and you try to drunkenly argue with them that, no, I swear it's spelled this way, you stupid bitch, they're gonna put it on you misspelled. Just like the tattoo artist put it on them misspelled on purpose because he's a dick.
Or just inject a horrible virus right into you.
Yeah, seriously. You look at that tattoo, they just posted their new ink online, thinking that it was all kinds of cool, and didn't even think about the fact that it was misspelled, even though majority of the time the tattoo artist tried to let them know, and they were drunk and decided to get belligerent. Tattoo artist just wanted the paycheck, and was just whatever you say, you're the boss. It's your arm.
Black pigment, oh, you have skin cancer now. Whoops.
Oh gosh, that'd be an interesting sci-fi premise, actually. If we got to the point where we were beyond all disease, to the point where the only pestilence that existed in the world was pestilence that we gave each other as revenge. Designer diseases meant to give humiliating side effects.
All diseases were curable, but skin cancer became the equivalent of a whoopee cushion.
Yeah, or a mushroom stamp, or drunk dicks on people's faces. Teabagging. Gave you skin cancer.
Oh, wait, dicks in permanent pigment modifications.
Oh, man. That's what you get for falling asleep at a Harvard frat party.
Oh, God. So The question is, do we name this episode Golden Rice or Dick Pigments?
Dick pigments.
It's so serious.
Golden rice and dick pigments.
Oh god.
Okay. Moving on.
Yes, moving on. So, what else do you have?
You know, back in the day, I used to hang out in parking lots. No, seriously, a lot of people have heard about the remains of Richard III being found. Apparently those were missing, because everybody fucking hated that guy. He just got stuffed in a hole someplace. Anyway, New York Times, shit you not, had like the best headline for it. Bones under parking lot belonged to Richard III.
Very concise.
Seriously, and it reminds me of something that would be straight out of Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you find a dead body under a parking lot, you're expecting gang violence. Nope, Richard III. King Richard III.
So how deep was it? Did they have to dig far? How did they stumble upon the bones?
I'm trying to figure that out. I mean, I think they might have, like, had an idea of where it was. He was buried in a churchyard, but it was, like, a shallow grave. I think that they may have actually, like, used a whole bunch of archaeological detective work to try to figure out possible burial sites, like where the church he was buried next to, or the abbey he was buried next to, possibly was, and they figured out, oh, there's a fucking Walmart here, and go down into the parking lot, and everybody's driving by and it's just like, oh, they're doing construction. Oh, I guess they're fixing the sewer. Nope, looking for Richard III. Why the fuck would you want to find him? Like, this guy was hated for centuries. I mean, that's why they stuck him in an unmarked grave. Like, his body was totally beat up. Like, they kept beating the dude after they killed him, which apparently really was not an uncommon practice back in that time period. It was 15th century. Back in that time, if somebody important like a general or a king or a prince was killed, like a lot of times the enemies would continue to beat up the body just kind of as magnify the glory of the victory. I mean, these were brutal times. For fuck's sake, King Richard III took a freaking halberd to the skull, man.
Yikes.
Everybody, if you don't know what a halberd looks like, Google it. Boom, right to the back of his head. And then they did it again after he was already dead. And somebody, like, stuck a dagger in his buttocks. Wow.
You just figured measure a dagger right in the ass.
Kabam.
I wonder, I imagine there's like a montage of them figuring out where it is, and it's like the most anticlimactic version of National Treasure, where they just end up in a parking lot.
And this is where the movie ran out of budget. Seriously, I mean, that's so hilarious to me about this.
When they figured it out, were they like, well, fuck it, let's get a jackhammer?
I guess. Like, according to the way the body was positioned, King Richard's hands were, like, still tied. They tied the dude, and then came at him with a halberd, and then kept beating up the body after they'd removed his armor. I mean, they had him, and they went to town. This guy was so hated. And what's crazy is the amount of brutality that was used to kill him was known. It was put in historical record. I mean, Shakespeare talked about it in his plays. This was something that was very strongly in the public memory of the time. The facts attributed to his death continued and persisted into our time. And then they uncover this body, and it turns out that what the legend said was, like, really very accurate.
I bet Shakespeare didn't mention the dagger in the ass.
I'm not sure. Somebody will have to look that up. I have not read that particular play. I just know what was mentioned in here.
I imagine it would have sounded very good in Shakespearean.
Probably would have sounded badass.
Alright, so people in the comments, if Shakespeare didn't write about that in Shakespearean. I'm sure someone will know.
It's Middle English.
Whatever.
Anyway.
I'm not a fan of language, so don't look at me.
There's, like, so many different accounts. Apparently one account said that his body got thrown into a river. Other accounts said that he got buried here. However, all the accounts of him getting brutalized, well, he really did get brutalized. I mean, that really does resonate. Whenever something, like, makes it into legend, how sticky that legend stays, exactly how the details deviate over the telling and retelling, and which details stay, really do give you a lot of valuable information about the attitudes of the people at that time. I mean, what happened to the body? Like, there's all kinds of different ideas about what happened to the body. It turns out he was just stuffed in a hole, but, some say he was thrown into a river, some say that, he was cut apart. All the accounts say they beat his dead body and kept stabbing him afterwards. That detail stayed fixed, and that detail was here just recently verified. They found his body underneath a parking lot, which is such an anticlimactic and unceremonious place for the remains of a monarch to be. And you get the feeling from the history that that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted his grave to be as dishonorable as possible, and they succeeded. 500 years later, we bear witness to the fact that they succeeded in the total humiliation of this man.
Was it actually a Walmart, or was it like just some sort of other store?
I'm trying to find out. I just imagine a Walmart in my head, but that's because I'm a filthy American.
Yeah.
This is England. I don't know what kind of parking lot it actually is.
I wonder when they finally dug it up and they saw how mangled it was. Okay, we found it. Like, that was the first identifier. They got it right.
Oh god, I'm just imagining that scene of them digging that up and being like, oh, found the body. Like how it would be in a movie. Especially, if they found this body in Pulp Fiction, digging it up and they're just looking at it ugh. That's kind of what's going through my head when I'm seeing this story. The imagination that the story is sparking is actually more interesting to me than the story itself. Really, they just found a dead guy.
Yeah.
And we find dead guys all the time.
Speaking of dead guys, Neanderthals are dead.
Yeah. I actually saw this story about that. It says apparently the last Neanderthals of southern Iberia may not have coexisted with modern humans, new data suggests, which makes me very, very sad because I love Neanderthals.
Wait, may not have coexisted?
Yeah, may not have coexisted with modern humans.
So they died before, or the humans killed them?
Basically, they may have died out before we migrated to that area. Which makes me very, very sad, because I like Neanderthals, and I was enthralled with the idea that perhaps we didn't kill them, and perhaps they actually just integrated with us, and white people are part Neanderthal, or something.
We do have some Neanderthal DNA in our genome.
They actually found out, though, that apparently the indicator they used to try to find the Neanderthal DNA in modern humans existed before the Neanderthals did.
Oh, really?
Apparently that's something that was a gene that appeared in a common ancestor between humans and Neanderthals.
Oh, that sucks.
I know! It makes me so sad, because I was all like, Ozzy Osbourne's part Neanderthal, that's why he's so cool, and I'm just enthralled with these creatures, and I wish they were still around so I could talk to one. I don't know why. It's probably because they're such a mystery, and what little we know about them just sparks my imagination so much. I mean, I'm really into alternate reality fiction.
Yeah.
I love steampunk. I love Transmetropolitan. The idea of multiple dimensions I was exposed to that idea because I watched copious amounts of Ninja Turtles as a kid. So, I mean, the idea of alternate dimensions. Oh, and the Ninja Turtles movie where they have the new turtles plus the old turtles plus the really old turtles in this big old alternate dimension fiasco. Loved that. I love that kind of thing. So it's like I see these Neanderthals and I'm thinking alternate dimension humans, duh, and I want to peek into a world where everything's a little different. I want to take a look at a me that is, what I would be if evolution had taken a different course, I guess. And here we have this specific example of a different evolutionary outcome of the whole Homo thing.
Homogeneous?
Yeah, the whole Homo genus.
There is a no homo joke in there somewhere.
Oh, damn it. There probably is.
So, I'm in, t-shirt slogan creation mode, so...
I know that there's the, Homo,
Erectus?
No, Homo florenziensis. Florenziensis. There's, too many consonants, right together in the wrong place. Homo florenziensis. They were these little hobbit-style people that lived in Flores, this island of Flores, and the Nage people of Flores have these legends about the Ibu Gogo, which were basically legends of these small halflings. They were thought to be a mythical creature until we find these remains. We're pretty sure that Homo florenziensis and us, we coexisted together. We do know that Java Man continued to persist alongside Homo sapiens for a little while, or at least at the same time, not necessarily in the same area. Here we have two different distinct great ape species, human Homo ape species.
Humanoids.
that coexisted for a period of time, and these people persisted in our legends, in our oral history. And we do know that there are mentions of like the giant sloth and the saber-toothed tiger and the mastodons persisted in oral histories of indigenous peoples of the Americas. And that gives me hope, because what do European legends have? Ogres!
And dragons. And dragons.
Yeah, they have those too. But, you run into bones all the time in, like, the cliffs of different parts of Europe. The ancient peoples saw fossils. Humans have been running into fossils all the time, so old fossils can actually account for a lot of the, legends about creatures.
Yes, but damn it, Jack, I want dragons to be real. Don't ruin this for me.
Okay, fine. Well, I want the Neanderthal. Hey, well, you know what? I really can't relate, because the Neanderthals are real. Or were.
But I think what you're saying is, even though the Neanderthal baby story we talked about 2 weeks ago was fake, that you want to be the Neanderthal surrogate.
Maybe? I really haven't thought about it till you just brought it up just now, but now that I do think about it, I might not say no. If somebody were to walk up to me and be like, how would you like to be a surrogate mother to a Neanderthal? And I'd be like, oh, pick me, pick me. Wait, do I really want to do this? Fuck it, pick me. YOLO, pick me.
That would be weird.
Would be weird. But yeah, that kind of gives me hope. We do have some stories about humanoid creatures that have persisted, so maybe. But that's not necessarily enough to go off of. That's the fact that they existed, and the fact that we have these stories is enough to hold out for more evidence. I feel it's enough reason to keep looking, to see if there's any chance that humans and Neanderthals coexisted anywhere. But with every discovery like this, it's looking more and more dismal. And it's such a tug-of-war, it's such a tease.
For sure we coexisted at some point and location.
I'm hoping so.
Or at least fought. The ogre thing that you were talking about, I don't really think that's likely to be Neanderthals. Because I remember hearing that Cyclops stories were based on mammoth skulls, because they thought where the nose was where the eye was.
That's the Cyclops, though. The Cyclops is actually a Greek myth.
Well, I know, but when I think of ogre, in every iteration, they're really big.
You're thinking of giants. Not all ogre stories have the ogres as being really big.
Well, Shrek, but if we're gonna go off that, then let's...
Think orcs, basically has them being bulky. Some dwarf ideas has them being short and bulky, but then again, dwarf ideas could also be attributed to dwarfism in humans.
I think what you're saying is that with enough genetic manipulation, we could make the D&D universe a reality.
That goes without saying. This is coming around to D&D. It's so hard for me to talk about these mythical creatures without the D&D or Warcraft counterpart popping to mind. That's so much more relevant to today's culture than these ancient myths ever will be. So I don't know if I can actually get the point all the way across vividly in this conversation, but I think I've gotten the point across well enough.
I'll get working on dragons, you birth a Neanderthal, and then we'll go from there.
This is either going to be the best or worst kids movie ever.
That'd be a terrifying movie.
I don't know if there's much of a way to actually pull that movie off without coming off as slightly racist.
Not really.
Think of the Caveman Geico commercials, or do you have those up there?
Oh yeah, we have those. On a very different side note, Geico has way too many storyline commercials.
I like where they're going with this, basically turning the commercials into the entertainment. On the one hand, it's delightfully Machiavellian, which makes me feel like I'm supposed to hate it, but that makes me want to like it even more, because that makes it a little forbidden. I'm enjoying these commercials, and I'm not supposed to.
Geico has 5 storylines.
The talking money.
They have the gecko, and then the caveman, and then they have something else.
Not talking money, it's just, it doesn't talk. You get the sense that it can, though. It just stares into your soul, you get the sense that it can.
It just stares into your soul.
I think that talking money is one of the old ones.
We're getting sidetracked off of making dragons and Neanderthals.
Possible racism aside.
You know it's gonna have to depend when we're getting sidetracked from Neanderthals.
We're getting sidetracked from our sidetrack.
Eventually you'll just loop around into a nice package.
It's like sidetrack, then sidetrack, then sidetrack, then sidetrack, then sidetrack, and I bet you anything if you were to chart the arc of our conversation, it would actually be in the shape of a nautilus. We will have achieved the Fibonacci sequence, or at least it would be possible to manipulate the data to make it look that way.
Golden rice, hey, we're done!